What is it, exactly, that you get out of fantasy fiction? I ask because the genre offers a lot of different things to different people. Fantasy offers a chance to escape the known quantities of your mundane life and embark on a grand adventure into the unknown. At times, it can offer a reassuring moral certainty, presenting us with worlds where heroes can be heroes and good and evil are actually clear absolutes. It also offers the possibility to see the impossible, to witness wonders, heroic feats, and epic battles that defy conventional logic and even the laws of physics themselves. Since you're presumably an anime fan if you're watching this, I'd wager that last item is a major selling point in a lot of the fantasy shows you've watched. The entire shonen battle subgenre is built on that idea of folk with extraordinary, often magical abilities coming to blows and solving their problems with crazy superpowers. And I'd be lying if I said I didn't love that stuff myself. I mean, I have a whole series dedicated to talking about insane anime fantasy fights. I've also got a bit of a weak spot for shameless escapism, if that wasn't obvious from how much isekai I watch and talk about, and the base appeal of those elements is almost certainly what got my younger self into fantasy to begin with. But what's kept me invested in the genre for most of my life is the ability that truly great works of fantasy have to make me believe that a wholly imagined place is real, to let me see how humanity might be shaped by a world different from my own, and let me visit that world myself. It's admittedly pretty rare to see that potential fully realized. It takes top-notch writing skills, an impeccable eye for detail, a complex understanding of human nature, and a broad but comprehensive knowledge of world cultures and history to make a place with an invented past, and the invented people who inhabit it, feel truly believable. But when a writer manages to pull that off, personally speaking, I can take or leave any of that other crap. Give me a fantasy world I feel like I can really live in, and yeah, I'll be happy to watch some big epic battles happen there, and of course I'll be stoked to go on an adventure through it, but if you've really made your world well, I'd be just as happy to watch, say, a merchant doing business with various cities in it while making googly eyes at the ancient nature goddess who lives in his cart. I'd watch that for at least 3 seasons, almost certainly more. You hear me, Kadokawa? I know you do because you're sponsoring this video through your fantastic ebook service, Bookwalker, which is my personal favorite way to read manga and light novels on the go. But I guess I'm getting a bit off topic in more ways than one there. I did go off on that first tangent for a reason, though. If the main things you look for in your fantasy anime are big action scenes, epic plot lines, and escapist wish fulfillment, and you could care less about immersive world building, then Ascendance of a Bookworm might very well bore you to tears. But if you found yourself nodding along with me as I described my tastes in the genre, if you've been craving another fantasy anime in the vein of Spice and Wolf, and especially if the idea of seeing what life would be like for a bookish peasant girl in a world where the nobility has a monopoly on both learning and magic intrigues you, well, Ascendance of a Bookworm might just be your favorite new show of the season, if not the year. Here's how the story goes. You find out about a treasure in the Grand Line, and there's no doubt that the pirate who's... hold on, I think I got my notes mixed up. Okay, here's how the story goes. Urano Motosu was a young woman with an undying love for literature and a simple dream. She wanted nothing more than to be a librarian and to live every day reading as much as she could. But fate had other plans for her. Right when she was on the verge of achieving her dream, she was struck down in a tragic accident, killed in part by irony, but mostly by a lot of heavy books that fell on her in the middle of an earthquake. And though she wished with her dying breath to be surrounded by books in her next life, it was not to be. As the story begins, she awakens in the frail, sickly body of a 5-year-old girl named Mine. There's not a book, scroll, or scrap of paper to be found in the unlit, sparsely decorated wooden hovel that is apparently her new home, and Mine's family, though they're quite friendly and happy to see their little girl up and out of bed for once, have no idea where to find a book either. In fact, they barely even seem to know what books are. As it turns out, Urano's been reborn into a land with no printing presses. Here, everything has to be written by hand, on expensive animal skin parchment no less, and thus her precious books are truly precious in this world. Luxury items that only the nobility can afford to possess. As the peasant daughter of a textile worker and a guard captain, mine is lucky just to see a book through a glass case in a merchant's stall. Odds are she'll never get a chance to read even one, let alone have a library. But that's the thing about undying love, it doesn't stay down easy. Mine's passion for the written words survived even when she did not, and if death itself couldn't stop her desire to read, what chance does an imbalanced and oppressive class system have? If she can't find a book, mine resolves, she'll just have to make one herself. Given that she's starting with the resources and connections of an until now bedridden 5-year-old peasant girl in medieval Europe, that's a pretty tall order, and her progress toward that goal is pretty slow going, as you can probably imagine. No, you're going to want to imagine it even slower than that. Let me put it this way. We're 8 episodes out of 14 into a show about making a book, and mine has only just now acquired paper. To be clear though, quite a lot has happened on her way to that milestone, both in relation to that goal and to the many character-driven subplots that the show juggles around it. And there are some substantial advantages that come with the series' slow and steady pace. For those of us looking to immerse ourselves in a tangible fantasy world, Ascendance of a Bookworm offers plenty of opportunities to stop and smell the roses, or the magical ice trees and invasive parasitic weed fruits, as it were. That said, while we have been shown a few odd flora and fauna, as well as some hints of magic, the show's world-building efforts have been more concerned with exploring how lower-class families in this world live day to day, and how they support each other as a community. The city mine finds herself in has its own fully realized culture and customs, which her Japanese mannerisms sometimes run up against. Folk around her are a bit baffled by her tendency to bow an apology, for example, and like most Japanese speakers, she's prone to talking with her hands. There's a lot of subtle details like that to be found here. A fair bit of time early on is spent on the chores that mine and her sister perform to help keep the household running, which range from doing handicrafts, cooking, and cleaning the home, to running around gathering firewood with other kids from their building. The show also highlights the bureaucratic work that mine's father does as a city guard, which involves tracking the goods of foreign merchants and filling out import paperwork, a duty usually left to the one literate town guard, Otto. Knowing that, mine eventually convinces Otto to teach her how to read the language of this new world. That's one of the first successful steps in her quest. You'll notice we kind of meandered around getting there, and that's by and large how Bookworm's entire story works, hence why its pacing is so leisurely. We spend most of our time immersed in the day-to-day life of mine and her family and friends, but then, every so often, we'll stumble on something interesting and mine will have a flash of inspiration. Because she's so focused on her literary ambitions, that inspiration will often be writing related. She tries her hand at making papyrus and clay tablets, for instance, but nearly as often she'll find a way to improve the lives of her friends and family, like cooking what they thought was just chicken feed into surprisingly tasty pancakes, or using random kitchen scraps to invent shampoo. It's minor stuff, all things considered. She's no Senku, though her experimentation does occasionally remind me of Dr. Stone, but she's not about to introduce this world to the wonders of electric lighting or anything. But this story isn't about the fate of human civilization. It's about the day-to-day lives of people in another world, and in that context, those small things can make a world of difference. Okay, I can sense some eyes glazing over out there, so I must assure you this show isn't just about the struggles of the peasantry, although I think those are interesting. It has its share of fantastical elements, too, and it applies the same detail-oriented approach to exploring those elements as it does to the lives of its characters. For example, isekai stories tend to gloss over the complications that crop up when a person suddenly stops being in one place and starts being in another, or is reborn in someone else's body. Often there will be some kind of deity to aid in the transition, the world's language will be implanted directly into the hero's mind by magical means, and generally speaking, the actual isekaiing and/or reincarnating will happen off-screen as part of the character's backstory so that we can more quickly jump into the action. In contrast, Ascendance of a Bookworm handwaves nothing. It finds the metaphysical questions raised by the isekai premise to be fascinating, and it delights in the chance to explore them. So, Urano doesn't just pop into the world out of nowhere. She's reincarnated into the existing body of a little peasant girl, and grows up there as that little girl for 5 years before her memories of Earth resurface. And we're there with her when that happens. The process of their minds merging is shown to be notably traumatic, and without spoiling things, the means by which this transfer of consciousness occurs becomes a significant plot point as the story moves forward. So does the concern of what might happen if Mine's friends and family discover that a total stranger has essentially stolen her body. And given how keen she's been to apply her modern knowledge to this medieval world, it is entirely possible that they'll figure that out. Hell, the show's entire story is framed through Mine's future mentor, a blue-haired priest guy, knocking her out and reading her mind to figure out exactly how she knows so much stuff that a peasant girl has no business knowing. Now, picking apart isekai cliches has become a bit of an isekai cliche in and of itself, but none of this is done for the sake of indulgent wink and nod genre subversion. These plot points are just the natural result of the series author, Miya Kazuki, asking interesting questions about the fantastical premise of their story and writing all of their characters as intelligent, inquisitive human beings, which, as I laid out in my Trails of Cold Steel video a few years back, is also a vital element of world building. And Mine's family are real standouts in that regard. Her mom, Etha, is hardworking and caring, though hard as she has to work, she's not always as aware as she could be of what Mine actually wants. Tuli, her sister, is sweet and kind, though a bit lacking in confidence. She relies a lot on her family for moral support as she pursues her own goal of being a seamstress like her mom. Lastly, Gunther, Mine's father, is a big, loving, and lovable bear of a man who dotes on his daughters every chance he gets. Though sensitive as he does get a bit jealous when Mine starts spending time with Otto. Despite the fact that they're not actually her family, Urano does quickly form a powerful bond with these kindly people, and their love for each other gives the series a heartwarming emotional core. Their personalities are vibrant and almost instantly likable, and watching them interact almost always manages to put a smile on my face, when it's not putting a tear in my eye. And it's not just them. The show's entire cast is interesting, likable, dynamic, and well-developed, and just as Mine works toward her goals, we see many of them working toward theirs. It's not hard to get a read on what characters want and what their general temperaments are, but even those who seem the simplest manage to give the impression that they're always thinking, observing what's around them, and reacting to it, not just embodying tropes and saying things to move the plot along. With that plot moving at the pace that it does, really small interpersonal conflicts can serve as significant roadblocks to its progress, and because all of the characters are so well realized, it's often interesting just to see how Mine deals with those situations and convinces people to go along with her schemes. This is a story about relationships with very personal stakes, where a well-chosen word or a slip of the tongue can change everything. And I love that. Ascendance of a Bookworm is a brilliantly written anime. Its characters and world just have so much life about them, and through them it explores a vast range of themes, from the importance of family and the power of the written word, to medieval economics and social politics, which could easily threaten to get overcomplicated, but the show manages to consistently feel relaxing, accessible, and fun. For all I've talked about its strengths here today, I feel like I've barely scratched the surface of any of them. If you're not keeping up with Ascendance of a Bookworm already, I strongly encourage you to give it a watch and see those strengths for yourself. Or, if you'd prefer, as Mine almost certainly would, you could give it a read. Fortunately, today's sponsor, Bookwalker, can help you out with both. And if you use the promo code BASEMENT when you check out, you can get that help entirely free. Bookwalker, if you missed my subtle shilling in the intro, is Kadokawa's official ebook store, where you can buy hundreds upon hundreds of high-resolution English-language manga and light novels to read on your phone, tablet, or PC. Bookwalker makes it easier than ever to acquaint yourself with the source material for many of your favorite anime, and it's my go-to app for long plane rides and long restroom trips. From now until December 8th, to celebrate both the new anime and the impending release of Volume 5, Bookwalker is running a special campaign for Ascendance of a Bookworm, with the first 3 volumes on sale for between 10 and 30% off. Now that's a great value for any of these fine books, but if you buy Volume 1 right now, you'll be getting a particularly great deal. See, not only will your purchase include a special bookshelf skin so you can keep the whole series in one aesthetically pleasing place on your phone, but during this campaign, Volume 1 also comes bundled with a 30-day guest pass for Crunchyroll Premium Plus, which lets you watch any anime in Crunchyroll's library, including Ascendance of a Bookworm, and gives you access to special beta features on the site. And that's not even the best part. Since Volume 1 is currently just 578 yen with that 30% discount, if you use the promo code BASEMENT for an additional 600 yen discount when you buy it, you'll get all of that entirely free. This might well be the best deal I've ever been able to give you guys with that discount code, so if you've been holding out on trying Bookwalker in spite of all my shilling for them, now's the time to do it. Check that deal out at the link in the doobly-doo, but real quick before you click away, please let me know in the comments below what you think of Ascendance of a Bookworm and what other fantasy anime or books you've found that scratch a similar immersive itch. I deeply appreciate almost all of the comments that you guys leave, but I'd really appreciate those recommendations because I am always looking for more good fantasy. I'm Geoff Thew, professional shitbag, signing out from my mother's basement.